Today, you are listening to a post-draft edition of Film vs. Analytics, a Fantasy Points podcast where each day we discuss a new player, battling them out, film versus analytics. I'm your host, Brett Whitefield, the film expert. I am joined by Scott Barrett, the analytics goat himself. We are Fantasy Points.
What?
Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.
Today, we have a 2-for-1 special. We're talking Cleveland Browns running back Quinshon Judkins and New England Patriots back TreVeyon Henderson.
Brett, it was so weird, like during the pre-draft process, especially like the debates people would have where it's like, I'm team TreVeyon, I'm team Judkins. Like you don't have to like love one and hate the other.
Mm-hmm.
You could just say they're both good. Unfortunately, I'm not going to say that. I
know.
love one, I hate the other, and I think you're the opposite way, which means this is going to be a great debate episode.
No, I'm not really the opposite. When you learn the reason I'm lower on the one, it'll make more sense. And then now, since the draft, though, I've completely flipped. Like I'm higher than the one I was.
Oh
before.
no!
Yeah. So we're. I think we're gonna end up agreeing on this.
Oh boy! So you're gonna cave to me, is what you're saying? You're gonna bend the knee
a little bit. No, I'm not bending the knee. No, absolutely not. I stand in business. We know that.
Yeah, we do know that.
All right, I'll do film summaries. All right, so Quinshon Judkins was the third running back taken. He was the fourth pick of the second round, 36 overall to the Cleveland Browns. That's about where most people thought his draft capital would land. I was thinking maybe
he was a day 3 guy.
Okay, yeah. He was my RB5, so it's not like I was in love with the guy. It's just a really strong class, though. I think in last year's class he would have lapped the field, so it's worth pointing that out. But you have another big physical runner who brings the thunder. That's that kind of rhymed. I like that. It fell right off my tongue. So nice. But no, he's big, he's fast, and he runs like he's mad. And I tend to like those guys. So now, is the tackle breaking potential probably what you want it to be? I don't think it is. I think he's more of a vision heavy burst centric runner where I think he's going to get you everything that's blocked for you. I think he's I think his pace is awesome. The tempo he plays with, the way he can press the corner on outside zone, the way he gets upfield right away on duo and inside zone. And I think he's a creative runner in the open field, actually, which is something I wouldn't say about a guy like Amari and Hampton, who we already covered. So size, speed, burst, vision, those are some of my premium traits. He does all those well. He's the downside of him. He's very underdeveloped as a pass catcher, like really underdeveloped. You see that on the resume and the box score stats, obviously the counting stats, but you also see it when you watch the tape. He has no idea how to run routes. He almost looks lost in space at times when he does get the opportunity to leak out late as a check down option. To make it worse, Scott, I think he's a little tight in the hips, which means I think his route running potential is relatively capped. So I think for me, like his ceiling as a pass catcher is probably as a check down guy. He's not someone I'm going to run a lot of screens through, not someone I'm going to, use as a mismatch weapon at all. He's going to be a check down guy and a pass protector. I think he profiles well as a pass protector. So that said, it's kind of messy, right? Like it's not a clean projection. I think he's an early down workhorse type. And then he landed in a spot with Cleveland where they went ahead and drafted a explosive smaller back who probably can handle all the pass down work later in Dylan Sampson, which just makes it even worse for me. So full disclosure, I had Judkins as my RB5 and Henderson as my RB6 pre-draft. Those are my evaluations of them. I stand on the evaluations. I think landing spot, you're going to see me like TreVeyon Henderson a lot more for fantasy. Breaking down his profile, he's twitched up, he's explosive, he's a playmaker. We're in a league now that is prioritizing explosive plays, right? The advent of Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, these guys who have they can change a game in one play. Henderson has that ability. You get him in the open field, he's going to make guys miss. He's got a nasty jump cut. He's got a good spin move. He's real fluid, making guys miss. He can play physically if he has to, but it's not something I would probably have him doing a lot. But and just the burst and top end speed is just elite. He also doesn't fumble. I know people laugh at this, but dude is, rock solid ball security. Doesn't drop the ball in the pass game either. Doesn't fumble. I think he hasn't fumbled in nearly 500 touches dating back to his freshman season. So that's pretty remarkable. Teams will for sure love that. That'll get him on the field early. And then here's the icing on the cake, or the cherry on top for Henderson. I wrote him up as I think he has the highest pass catching ceiling of any running back in this class. He profiles as a guy who has elite route running potential. He's a mismatch weapon. We overused the phrase joker in 2025, Scott, but this is a joker type running back where I do think you can move him into the slot. You can get him out wide and get those favorable matchups. He's going to be a chain mover on third down. You're going to pump screens through him. He's an elite check down option. And anytime he gets the ball in his hands, he is subject to taking it to the house. Like, he is that explosive. So I think all these things bode really, really well for TreVeyon Henderson. And then he lands with Josh McDaniels in New England, which just gets me a little giddy. You see the usage potential there with James White and Rex Burkhead and Dion Lewis, and who are the other ones? I know I'm forgetting a few, but these pass catching type running backs that McDaniels has just got a ton out of. Kevin Falk, for God's sakes, going way back. You know what I mean? Like, imagine what he can do with a guy with this much talent. It's a little bit mind bending. Now, here's where I didn't like Henderson's tape. I thought his vision was a little bit hit or miss. I think he gets lost sifting through traffic, especially when he sees penetration early in the down. He almost crumbles. It's like a quarterback under pressure. He has really low spatial awareness. You see him run into his own blockers all the time. This isn't something that happened a few times either. It happens a lot. His run track when it gets consolidated, he loses sight of what's going on, and he kind of folds a little bit. Now, if New England, they've made strides improving that offensive line, I think that's something he can improve on. He's also a one-speed runner. It's a nitpicky concern, but he's balls to the wall on every single time. Like, there's no pace. He doesn't play with any pace. Quinshon Judkins plays with really good pace. He understands the flow of the blockers and how to set up blockers. I feel like Henderson doesn't have that right now. Something he will have to learn. But that's not dissimilar to like a Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs also had this problem coming out of Alabama, his first year with Detroit even. You saw him do that, where it's like one speed, doesn't know how to set up blockers. So it's something he can learn. So I'm not like crushing him for that. The thing I crush him for, though, the reason he was RB6 for me is I don't think this dude has the toughness to play in the NFL, Scott. And that's something we can't measure, unfortunately. But what I see on tape is a guy who left almost every single game he played because he was banged up, or he had a boo-boo, or he skinned his knee on the pavement outside riding his bike, or whatever. And it gives me DeAndre Swift vibes. And he did not play well when he was banged up either. The numbers bear that out pretty staggeringly. When he had a known injury, he did not play well. You see the guy take himself out of games all the time. This sounds funny. I really do worry about his toughness at the next level. And it only gets harder in the NFL, Scott. It only gets tougher. Guys are bigger, stronger, faster. This is the one thing keeping me from making him my RB2 in the class, is the toughness. I don't think he can cut it in the NFL. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong, honestly. But that's where I'm at.
To kind of summarize you and show what I also saw within the data is like, yeah, this is a super hyper efficient running back with really impressive big play ability. The concerns are, can he be a volume back? Because he was so much more efficient than Judkins, but it was Judkins who easily led the backfield in carries. And then the toughness concerns, right? And so just diving into the data, what I'll say is he had one of the most impressive freshman seasons, over 7.0 yards from scrimmage per touch, over 1,500 yards from scrimmage. Only freshman running backs from the power conferences since 2000 to do that. Nick Chubb, J.K. Dobbins, TreVeyon Henderson. The next year, he dealt with a broken bone in his foot. You kind of have to just throw out the whole year for that. The next year, coming off of foot surgery, also picked up a few more injuries, but did average 17.5 touches per game. And then last year, again, historically hyper efficient, 7.6 yards from scrimmage per touch. It was the most of any running back in the power conferences in 4 years. So tremendous efficiency. You look at it, you zoom out, look at it over his career, ranked second best in his class by career yards per carry, second best by career yards per target. Remember, this is like a really stacked class. So tremendously hyper efficient. And so it really all comes back to, can he handle more volume? I don't know. I'm kind of bullish just because he did as a freshman, he looked great. And it was like after that freshman year, it was sort of just like everyone knew he would be at worst a round 2 pick no matter what happened next. And so, maybe he welcomed a change like Judkins to come in, take some of the work off of his plate. I don't know, but he had 17.5 touches per game 2 years ago. But I get teams wanting to take that off his plate. I will say also awful in short yardage situations. So I don't know. I've gone back and forth in that one. And then the toughness component, I will say we heard New England talk about this in their presser. They said, listen, he's not a grinder between the tackles, power runner, but he has good vision. He hits the hole hard. He has good feet. And obviously, he has the speed to run outside. But we feel he has that toughness and versatility to run inside. So that sort of counters your derogatory DeAndre Swift comp. But I will say, I dug into the data and I did see this. I did see it because, like, obviously the yards per carry was great, but the career missed tackles forced per touch was really troubling. 17th percentile. So since 2018, only 3 drafted running backs with over 6.25 yards per carry had a worse missed tackles forced per touch. It was Ty Johnson, Damian Harris, and DeAndre Swift. Remember, that was your downside comp, your pejorative comp. And so I see that. Digging deeper, I also see Dalvin Cook. I see Devon Achane. And here's a stat that ties all of these names together, all 4. TreVeyon, Henderson, Achane, Cook, Swift are 4 of just 7 running backs over the past decade to average at least 7.25 yards per carry on outside runs, a mark that highlights explosiveness and vision in space. And then also, like, another stat I pulled, just big play ability, 20 plus run percentage in any given season. It was the same thing. It was Dalvin, Achane, and Swift, as well as Henderson popping in the top 10 of that. So I see it. I just also see some upside there in the form of maybe an Achane, maybe a Dalvin. But again, to me, everything kind of circles back to, this projection around touches, right? And I think in a best possible world, I mean, you could tell me if this is right or wrong. You're probably envisioning like Jahmyr Gibbs type usage where there's a David Montgomery there to lead the backfield and carries, but he's still going to have this hyper efficiency. He's going to be used as a pass catcher. So he's going to get those high value touches. But you do worry about the toughness. You do worry about, he stinks in short yardage. And all those other concerns.
The toughness, it's the quote you gave me with the coaching staff is interesting, by the way. I don't think they're using the word toughness the same way I am. I would never say TreVeyon like shies away from contact or anything like that. Like, I think he runs tough. So, like, yeah, does he have the down for down toughness to run between? Yeah, sure. I'm not going to say he doesn't. He's not Trey Benson. He's not out here making business decisions. But, I do think bodily toughness is different. And I do think when he's banged up, he starts to play poorly. He's not as explosive, pulls himself out of games. So,
yeah. So, Judkins, freak athlete, 91st percentile spork, tremendous counting stats, was always a workhorse, getting a ton of carries. And those tend to be the running backs my model loves. And so if I don't like this guy, there's only one explanation beyond obviously the limited pass catching upside. And that's that he has to be dreadfully inefficient. And that was clearly the case. So like, if you look at the numbers, just the raw numbers, there's a lot to like. As a freshman, he had the second most rushing yards by a freshman in SEC history, behind only Herschel Walker. It was like a great season, but you dig deeper into it. Round 6 running back Zach Evans also had 1,000 yards from scrimmage in that season, but was so much more efficient, 6.5 yards per carry to Judkins 5.7. The following season, really poor efficiency, especially when you factor in like Lane Kiffin backfields or a cheat code with a ton of space, a ton of room to run, light boxes. By box adjusted yards per carry, I think it was like the 8th worst season this past decade, and no running back who ever had like a bottom 40 season has ever had a carry at the NFL level. And then last year, yeah, it was more the same. He led the backfield in carries, but nowhere near as efficient as TreVeyon Henderson. Against power conference opponents, Judkins averaged a pathetic 4.6 yards per carry, 45th of 48 qualifiers. Henderson averaged 6.6, second best. And people in the YouTube comments might be like, yeah, well, Judkins was the short yardage back and blah, blah. Yeah. Like I factored in all of that, and it's still really troubling efficiency. And it's been every year of his career where he's below the backfield average in efficiency. And so this is like one of my favorite stats of the offseason was like, I just made note of every comp I saw, and it's, Lance Zierlein compared Judkins to Joe Mixon, Matt Miller compared him to Dalvin Cook, Danny Kelly, I love Danny Kelly, compared him to Kareem Hunt. And you just contrast their numbers by career yards from scrimmage per touch. Mixon 98th percentile, Cook 90th percentile, Judkins 13th percentile. Same thing by yards after contact per attempt. Everyone 66th percentile above, Judkins 24th percentile. Career yards per route run, Mixon 94th percentile, Judkins 19th percentile. It's just basically like none of these comps work. And like now you dive into the Moneyball quote where it's like, if this guy is so good, why wasn't he good? In fact, if this guy's so good, why was he awful? In terms of all of these efficiency metrics that matter most to my model, the comp I came up with that worked the best was, I thought, poor man's Najee Harris. That's kind of like what Sully football, our friend Sully had, where he looks like a 27-year-old who already spent 5 years in Pittsburgh. But like that doesn't even work. Like Najee's stats like weren't great, poor efficiency, really good counting stats. But like even his efficiency blows Judkins out of the water. So just definitively not one of my guys. I will say I ended up a lot higher just because draft capital was so good. Landing spot was solid. And that's kind of where I'm at.
Can we back and forth a little bit on the usage stuff?
Yeah.
Between him and Henderson. So like, I know you adjusted for box count, you said?
I adjusted for box count. I adjusted for short down and distance. Like he's obviously so much better than TreVeyon in short yardage situations, but like you factor that in and like compared to everyone else, you're still talking about like sub 25th percentile efficiency. And when I'm talking about, by the way, percentile, it's versus round 1 to 3 running backs historically.
Okay. There's other factors to consider though. And I'm not like, I do think you see the lack of efficiency on tape. So I'm not saying he's amazingly efficient and we should completely throw that out. But there's some other factors. Under center runs, Henderson almost got none of them.
Yeah.
Judkins got all of them. So the reason that's important is because Henderson was routinely in light formation scenarios, 11 and 10 personnel, from shotgun or pistol with read option attached to almost every carry he had. Where, so that read option threat takes away a pursuit defender. So even if the box counts are similar between Judkins and Henderson routinely basically was, if it was an 8-man box, it was 8-1 because the read option is taking away a backside edge defender, right? So, and I'm using extreme, it wasn't every carry that Henderson had read option, and it wasn't every carry that Judkins didn't. I'm just saying there was a big discrepancy though between under center carries and when you saw that RPO/read option hit attached to the run. I do think it matters a little bit. Henderson, generally speaking, with formation, alignment, and scheme, had a little bit more space to work with in general. That's it. But I do think Henderson is a far more efficient player. He's a home run hitter. So I see your point to a degree. I just think maybe we're not adjusting enough.
Yeah, I just want to say this isn't me, propping up Henderson necessarily. It's really just like, yeah, I get that the situation was a lot more favorable for Henderson. It's really just look at Judkins historically over every running back drafted round 1 to 3 the last 7 years. And it's like, this is based on just the efficiency, like, I don't know, a 4th round caliber running back prospect, 5th round, maybe even less than that. But the thing is, he does have freakish athleticism. He does have counting stats for days which my model really cares about. Like you want running backs who are workhorses in college. That tends to translate to the pros. It's just the efficiency was so concerning. Like, yeah, sure, he could get a lot of carries this year. I just don't know that he's good.
Yeah.
But you have some upside with the athleticism. The draft capital was great. The landing spot seems solid. It was interesting to me. The Browns drafted 2 running backs I don't like at all. But like, if you think I'm wrong and the Browns were right, like that is an ideal tandem where you have, Judkins to get the hard yards to really lead the team in carries. And then you have Sampson for the explosive plays, similar to what you saw last year at Ohio State, or ideally what, the Lions had with Montgomery and Gibbs. Again, I just kind of don't think these guys are great. I don't know how I feel about the Browns offense as a whole with their like 6 different quarterbacks who aren't too inspiring to me. And so it's just like, maybe this is take lock, but Judkins isn't a player I'm drafting. He's not someone I'm excited to draft. If I'm at that spot, I would trade down or take a different running back, but I'm sort of alone on an island here. I know, a lot of other people really like Judkins.
You're not alone. You're talking to a guy right now who agrees. From the fantasy standpoint,
Yeah,
I've completed 13 rookie drafts so far. I have 0 shares of Judkins, and I've passed on him in probably, like, I had a pick in his range in probably 8 of those drafts, and I said no thanks. Moving on. I'm worried about Dylan Sampson. Jerome Ford's also still on the roster. Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
And this offensive line is deteriorating, Scott. This is something no one's talking about.
That's a great point.
They have not invested into this O-line in years. Seriously, it's these guys are getting old. Bitonio's ancient. Wyatt Teller hasn't been good in 3 years. DeJuan Jones can't play left tackle yet. He's the left tackle. Like, this is a tricky situation for them. So I don't love the landing spot. I'm pretty much out on Quinshon Judkins at this venture. Henderson. I think he's most people's RB3, but he's my RB4 post-draft coming off the board. I like RJ Harvey a little bit better still, landing spot. We're going to do an episode on him too. But where are you at here with Dynasty?
I have him 105 RB3. I don't know how strongly I feel about this. I think you could talk me into Harvey over him, honestly, or like a Colston Loveland over him. Because I do have that, like, the concerns over the volume, and it's like, yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs can be a top 3 running back in fantasy despite getting just like 50% of the backfield XFP, but like, he's like one of the only running backs who can do that. Like, I don't know that I trust Henderson enough to do that. But obviously pass catching upside high, like you said, hyper efficiency in college. RB3.
Okay. I
don't like that he's a wussy, Brett. Like, you just call him a wussy. I don't like that.
I'm steadfast in RB4. I do like Harvey better, and we're gonna do a whole episode on him, so I don't want to touch.
I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, but
I'm worried. I think you're cause me to move him up.
Probably.
Because there's nothing I could disagree with. I love Harvey. Love the landing spot.
Well, here's the bright side though. Even if you have Henderson ahead or whatever. So we have like our top 5, which is, Genty, Hampton. If you're in super flex and premium, then you're going to go Ward, Tet, and Hunter. Some combo of those 5 guys are first off the board usually. And then you start to have decisions where you got to make, where you have Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren, TreVeyon Henderson, RG Harvey. Point being, you could be picking like 9th and have a shot at TreVeyon Henderson, which how many Dynasty rookie drafts do you get a chance at a running back that caliber at the 9th overall pick, Scott?
Yeah.
I mean, that's awesome, dude. That's like really good value. And then, dude, I was in a league. I did a draft last week that finished where someone came up and picked Matthew Golden. They're a big Matthew Golden guy. And somebody got Henderson at the 10 spot. It's crazy. So, yeah. I mean, to get a running back that caliber that late, typically those guys come off the board way early. So I think it's pretty cool. Really, really nice class. If you're in need of running backs and you're playing Dynasty, you're feeling good about this class. So, all right, we good, Scott?
We're good.
All right, let's get out of here. We'll be back with another episode. I think we're doing RJ Harvey next. Be sure to stick with us.